We have, as I promised earlier, Lieutenant General Mike McDuffie, who is the Director of Logistics for the Joint Staff. His full name, if you want it, is John M. McDuffie, but he goes by the name of Mike, and he is going to fill you in on the DoD participation in humanitarian efforts in the Balkans now. Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Ken. Good afternoon. Here to report to you this morning. The President had a meeting with key non-governmental organizations that are working in the relief operations in the Balkans. Accompanying the team was 2 reps from the Department of Defense, a rep from the Department of State, and USAID, if you would, an interagency team to meet with the NGOs and the President. The President confirmed his support for the humanitarian relief of the refugees in the region, and feels strongly about the active role that the United States takes in that. What I'd like to discuss with you today is the DoD role and how we fit in this really very large equation, and it quite often gets complex because you have so many players. Let's go to the first board here. What we have here, as you can see, we'll orient here, and we'll talk about all of the UN relief agencies that are working in the region, in the Balkan region. We look to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, to be the requirements clearinghouse, if you would, as we look at needs in a given area. We have a mission in Geneva that's part of our State Department forward presence that works very close with these organizations. And in fact, as requirements are determined, they're passed to the U.S. mission, back to the State Department and through USAID and over to the Department of Defense. The point I'd like to make here is that the Department of Defense, while a very active role, is really in a supporting role. It brings the things to bear that many of these agencies do not have to a given problem at a given point in time. Now, we use our unified command, the Commander-in-Chief U.S. European Command. As you know, that's General Clark, dual-hatted as the U.S. Commander, reporting back to Washington, but also as the Supreme Allied Commander Europe. We use this as our eyes and ears from Washington to usually provide that equipment or that coordination. And in fact, the headquarters in Stuttgart works daily with the U.S. mission in Geneva and the UNHCR, determining those requirements. So in fact, we get a heads up back here in Washington as this formal process works. Military on the ground in Germany actually maintains this communications link with the U.S. mission and the UN relief agencies that are present in the Balkans. Now, that said, as you can see, this is the U.S. seal, and behind there you see a NATO seal. So we are actually part of the NATO work on the current operation. Let's diverge a little bit. Last night, in fact, General Clark tasked one of the commanders-in-chief, Admiral Ellis, which is the Allied Forces South in Naples, to overwatch the humanitarian situation as it develops in Macedonia, Albania, and the region. In fact, as we speak, let's go to the map. As we speak, you can see we're primarily focused on Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro, and Bosnia. Those are our latest numbers. Of course, they're changing by the hour. As we speak, though, a NATO assessment team is working the issue in Macedonia and working the issues in Albania to try and get our arms around the problem from a military standpoint and what we can do. From a U.S. standpoint, we have a U.S. humanitarian assistance team going in to Macedonia tomorrow morning. They will then work with that NATO assessment. They will then go into Albania, again work with that NATO assessment to determine requirements and give us additional information. Most importantly, though, USAID has put a disaster recovery team into Macedonia and into Albania yesterday. The team has been in Macedonia for several weeks. The team arrived in Albania yesterday. So the military teams will link up with the USAID DART teams, we call them, to leverage each other's information and determine what those requirements are. What are we doing right now as we speak? U.S. Most importantly, we've received a request for 500,000 humanitarian daily rations. I just happen to have one up here on what a humanitarian daily ration looks like. Many of you have seen them. Maybe some of you have even had it before. As you can see, and I'll read it to you. It says it's a food gift from the people of the United States of America. The bag contains 1 day's complete food requirement for one person. The humanitarian daily ration has been around since 1993. I think we've distributed somewhere around 6 million of these in 20 different countries. It's really a replacement for these type of ops from our MRE because of its content. It doesn't have meat, and it really meets the requirement for all faiths. So that is our major operation, 500,000. That's quite a few airplane loads. We're in the process, as we speak, moving these from Tobyhanna Army Depot in Pennsylvania to Dover. We're building pallets there, and then we will fly those rations out of Dover in the next several days. Our intent is to have the first mission off tomorrow, and that flow will continue, and the plan right now is to move those into Tirana, Albania. That's where our urgent request is right now. Other activities, we are moving tentage from the central region in Europe into Macedonia. We're also moving blankets, cots, and sleeping bags out of the central region into Macedonia. We're moving material handling equipment, that's forklifts, things to be able to load planes and load trucks with, into Tirana. And we're also looking at the possible movement of additional tentage from the West Coast in California, also into Macedonia. An additional requirement that has been placed on our allied forces that are in Macedonia, the 12,000 peacekeepers that were there for the KFOR mission and remained there, is that they are to help with the humanitarian relief efforts ongoing in Macedonia, of course maintaining focus on their original mission. I spoke with Julia Taff about an hour ago. In fact, the British are in fact part of that force. They are in the process of helping establish camps with tents and many other things. So we will use those capabilities in the region. That's kind of the process and where we stand. Question?
You said you were providing, or you'll be providing 500,000 meals or food per day in Macedonia, or in all these different areas?
No, it's the request is for 500,000 total right now. That's the request from us, not per day. Right now, that request has been asked that we place those into Albania, and that's the challenge we have, because we'll find it's Albania one day, and then we may need to divert. So I wouldn't tell you that all 500,000 will go there. That's the initial request. We will start the flow of rations into Albania and then adjust accordingly.
I have really two questions. How current are these refugee figures, would you say?
They are current as of about 1 hour ago. They are growing. I would tell you that the numbers underneath there were current as of this morning, and they've grown. I think we upped them about 60,000 since this morning.
All coming out of Kosovo, are they, or most of them out of Kosovo?
That's correct. These are all the numbers that we have coming out of Kosovo.
The other question I had is giving a little historical precedent. We've often, in operations such as this, moved in combat engineers, CBs, Red Horse, Army Corps of Engineers to enlarge ports, to enhance airfields, to enhance distribution, all of those things. Any plans to do that?
Not at this time. However, I'd like to talk about that a bit, because I was very involved in humanitarian operations, not only in Africa, but elsewhere in the Balkans before. Well, this is a terrible situation, and it's tough. There's no doubt about that. When you compare this operation with an operation down in Africa, where you had the tyranny of distance, you did not have the infrastructure, you did not have a population even helping with the flow of refugees. While this is challenging, it is not as tough. We have capabilities in the region. I mean, we have this 12,000-man force that's already there in Macedonia that's helping. The Albanian army, in fact, is doing a lot of work in moving refugees, dispersing them from the border back into the interior of the country. We have usable airfields that we're using. So while certainly, you can always improve road structure, you can always improve airfields, we have the basic infrastructure already in place to be able to conduct the ops. And that's not just our assessment, that's the assessment from the UN relief agencies on the ground. While the roads are tough and rutted and you can't particularly go fast, you can at least get there and you can get the airplanes in as we need.
C-130, C-17s can operate on those airfields?
I can talk about airfields. We currently have an airfield that we're operating in Greece. It's called Macedonia Airfield near Thessaloniki. We have a Tausi there, in fact, because we had flown some other forces in. That very usable for then road transport on up into Macedonia. Skopje is a very, very capable airfield. Tirana in Albania, capable. There's another, I can never pronounce it right. It's up along the northern coast of Albania. I'm from Florida, so I call it Gator, but I'm not so sure that's the right pronunciation. It's G-A-D-J-E-R. We determined that is usable, and in fact, there is a dirt strip up close at Kukis. We don't know the usability of that airfield, though, for C-130s. I mean, everybody wants to say it's C-130 capable because of the length, but we really don't have that assessment. Our view, it probably is not.
To the extent you can do it, what are you projecting in terms of refugees in those 4 areas in the next 3 or 4 days or something like that?
I really don't have a good number on that as we speak. We could go back and look at the numbers of flow. There is an anticipation, though, that the numbers in Macedonia are going to grow by another possibly 50% in the next 3 days. I don't have a good number for you, though.
For instance, Macedonia to absorb the bulk of the refugees from here on out, or are you not clear about that?
What we've had just of recent is that Macedonia is our effort now with the major flow of refugees.
How are you going to get the MREs to the people if you take them into Albania? Any distribution network set up?
In fact, there is. There is road movement from Tirana all the way up into Kukish, which is the center place.
Do you have contingency plans to transfer Albanian refugees to other European countries like Germany, France, Switzerland, Austria, since they have the resources to feed and help them more than the other countries?
I would defer that question to the Department of State. I know they have some contingency planning, but that would be their specific responsibility.
Can you just go over one more time some of the specific military tasks that the ARC headquarters and the 12,000 troops in Macedonia might be undertaking to help with all of this? What might those guys be doing?
The one specific task that I know that they are in fact helping with now is the erection of tentage and the establishment of camps. Transit camps in Macedonia. That's the only specific task that I'm aware of because the assessment is still going on.
If you're sending the meals to Albania, but you expect Macedonia to have the biggest increase in refugees, what are you going to be sending food there too?
That's correct. You have to understand, again, we're in the supporting role. There is a lot of food in this region. There's 20 metric tons here in Montenegro that the UN relief agencies are now getting their hands on. As I think Ken stated earlier, there's enough food in the region to sustain about 400,000 refugees for an extended period of time. It's a matter of getting to that. So the only issue we have right now is with the ACRs. Now, there's a unique requirement for this because this is primarily a transit ration because it's sealed. It doesn't get infected, and you can take it and you can give it to someone as they're transiting. Much of the other feeding is done with not such a ration. It's primarily grain. Well, I've got something here to tell you what's in it. It's high caloric. It has 2,200 calories. It's grain-based meal, and it's enriched with many things. It does not contain animal products. It's not something that you want to sustain life with forever, but it'll certainly sustain you for a period of time.
Or is it, what is it?
Can we try some?
Well, we can open one up here, sure. When we're done, I'll be glad to open one up for you here. Here you go.
I'd like to get one later for television if I could.
Certainly.
But one of the things I wanted to ask you, too, forgive me, I don't want to monopolize here, but as you get into these refugees coming in, you haven't mentioned water, you haven't mentioned sanitary conditions. How are you going to handle that?
Right. All of the information we have back from the UN relief agencies through the UNHCR, we had a shift of focus. We had a lot of agencies working in. Go ahead and pass that out to other people. We had a.
Just pull it out up there and let them see what's in it, and then you can.
All right. We really had a significant effort going on in Kosovo. That effort was redirected into Macedonia and into Albania. So we have World Health Organization, World Food Program. I mean, this significant number of NGOs and PVOs work in the region.
2 questions. A couple of days ago, our State Department with UPI and our State Department reporter talked to some folks in the Serbian area who said that the 400,000, much of the 400,000 meals have been burned up in warehouses. Do you have any indication of that?
No.
And also, could you talk militarily? Ken has talked about a little bit about why you can't do airdrops.
Let me ask you the first question first. The only information we have of destroyed food was in Pristina, in a warehouse. There is additional food in Belgrade. There's food in Montenegro. So the only place we have any definition that some food was destroyed was in Pristina. I do not know. We can get that for you, though. The second question on airdrop, I mean, it's a favorite subject. As you know, there's a significant air defense system in Kosovo and in Belgrade. That's significant. I mean, to fly airdrop, you normally fly in an airplane that you don't want to go into a high threat environment. So it's very dangerous. But I will tell you, and more importantly, is that you have to measure the effectiveness of what the airdrop would be. One, I would look at it as that we would be resupplying the Serb military more than we would be feeding Kosovars. And secondly, because of the situation in Kosovo. And secondly, you would be establishing almost a magnet for Kosovars to put them in harm's way, that they could be rounded up by the Serbs even more. So we don't see airdrop during this non-permissive environment as an option.
Direct delivery from Dover, are you going to fly the C-17 this weekend right into Albania?
We will probably, our plan is, and it may change, but currently we like to contract those missions with 747s, and then we would do a transload into C-130s at some place. We're looking at a place in Italy right now.
Not C-17s, but commercial C-747s.
Right. I mean, of course, the C-17 could do it, but we've got the C-17s busy doing lots of things right now, and when we can use a commercial variant for cargo, we like to do that. So,
can you clearly delineate for people watching this now the difference between these and the notorious MRE? When Les Aspin unveiled these things in '93 for Somalians, he made clear distinctions. They didn't want the MRE; they wanted something they could eat and not choke on.
Well, actually, I like MREs, so I'd argue on choking, but of course, after 45 days, they get a little bit hard to take. But the MRE is high in calories. Obviously, one MRE is for one meal, so it's 3 meals a day. This is for all 3 meals for the day. It's significantly cheaper than the MRE, and the MRE is high in fat and has a lot of animal products. I mean, it has, depends on the meal you get. You can have pork, beef, chicken, all kinds of different things. So for those of us who've been in the uniform for a long time, we know which ones to pick. But it's primarily a religious issue and an availability issue, and for the calories you get in it, it's quite a bit cheaper than the MRE.
Does it have Tabasco sauce?
I don't see any.
So what has it got? I mean, can you show us?
Okay, sure. This is a fruit pastry, strawberry jam with a biscuit. This is shortbread, another fruit bar, peanut butter, and this is pasta with tomato sauce, and with your own little kit. Spoon, salt, pepper, and matches.
Do you anticipate that you're going to be supplying more than 500,000 of these?
We're prepared to do that, and we have the capability to do that.
But you don't know.
We don't know. We're prepared to do that, though. We have the stocks to do that.
General, do you know how many refugees arrived in Greece, Bulgaria, or Turkey?
I don't have that number with me. I do not.
How many can you go up to? You say you have the stores to do it. Do you have 1 million?
Yes, I'm not sure the exact number. I know we have 800,000 at the one depot that we're working out of right now, as an example.
Start arriving in Albania when? Sunday or Saturday?
We will fly them. Plan is to fly them tomorrow. So you would look at 36 hours after that, probably into Albania. That doesn't mean the point is we're not short food right now. People are not starving. The report out of Kukish, which was the tough area there in Albania, was that we had about 10 days of food. So it's, and if you notice on the TV, when people come across the border, they're usually eating something and clothed. The one issue that we're working on right now is the health issue. The initial refugees, as they came across, were actually pretty healthy. But if you remember, they weren't moving too far because they were in the southern part of Kosovo. Now the refugees that are starting to come across the border have come from quite a ways, and we're starting to see a little bit more of a deterioration in health. So,
in terms of personnel that are going to be associated with this, the military personnel, is it going to mainly be limited to pilots, and then the 350 or so former UNPRODEP troops that are on the ground in Macedonia, or are there going to be others?
Well, remember now, as I said, we are in a supporting role, and we want to let the UN relief agencies, specifically as tagged to UNHCR, set the requirements for us through the Department of State. So in that supporting role, we really will add as required. But remember, it's not just the 350 UNPRODEP troops there. There's 12,000 NATO troops there in Macedonia. So we will approach this as part of NATO in the region. That's why General Clark has been given the task and is establishing the requirements for NATO support.
What you're describing doesn't involve any additional U.S. military personnel?
Currently, what I'm describing does not, other than the assessment teams, and as they make their assessment and come back, we will evaluate. And of course, we're very interested in the Commander-in-Chief's view, General Clark's view, at U.S. European Command on what if additional things he would need.
How many?
Excuse me?
Assessment teams of how many?
Assessment teams about 16 strong, if I'm not mistaken. 16
Those?
folks. One goes into Macedonia, and one will go over to Albania. That's U.S. now, and that's an augmentation to assessment teams that are being put out by NATO.
When do they get there?
The assessment team, the NATO assessment teams are already in Albania and in Macedonia, and the U.S. assessment team will arrive tomorrow into Albania.
Should we say men or people?
Or Macedonia, excuse me, people.
I mean, I'm not being cute.
No, that's correct. I really don't know I don't know the composition of the team. We kind of use that generically.
Water, Ivan brought that up
Right.
earlier. Do you have ample stocks of bottled water, or are you being required to fly in some of those reverse osmosis machines?
Yeah, that's a very good question. With the operations that we ran in Africa, especially starting with Rwanda, there's Oxfam is the NGO. Their water production capabilities are unbelievable, very, very effective. We have not flown a reverse osmosis water purification into an operation a long time because they are so capable. And they, in fact, as we speak, are flying in significant water production and purification capability into the region.
Who is this again?
Oxfam, OXFAM, and I don't know what it stands for.
I notice you did not list the number of refugees inside Kosovo itself, and yet you have 55,000 in Montenegro. Is there any possibility that any of these goods could get to refugees inside Kosovo or in Montenegro?
Clearly, we have UN relief agencies working in Montenegro, so that, in fact, is working as we speak. I really can't speak to the refugees in Kosovo. I really don't know. Ken, I don't know if you've got anything in addition to that at all.
Are all the relief agencies out of Kosovo?
Are they out of Kosovo? I don't know that question either. I know most are. Most are. All I would not dare to guess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
General.